The human mind cannot tolerate an information vacuum. When faced with absolute silence, people instinctively fill the empty space with their deepest anxieties. Most people speak to project power, but true strategists use silence to strip it away. When you withhold reaction and conceal your true position, you force your opponent to negotiate against themselves. Strategic silence is the art of psychological leverage. In this masterclass, discover how to extract critical intelligence, provoke unforced concessions, and let your opponent collapse under the weight of their own assumptions. Human beings are socially conditioned to treat silence during high-stakes interactions. The vacuum trap exploits this deeply ingrained impulse by deliberately withholding a response at critical junctures. When an opponent finishes making a demand or presenting a pitch, remaining entirely motionless and quiet creates an intolerable cognitive strain. To relieve this intense discomfort, the opponent's brain rushes to fill the void. Because they assume your silence implies dissatisfaction or rejection, they start over-explaining, adding unrequested context, and revealing the hidden motives behind their offer. By simply staying still and quiet, you turn their own nervous energy into a truth serum, harvesting vital intelligence without asking a single question. In any strategic interaction, the party with the most information controls the outcome. Information scavenging is the tactical posture of consuming every scrap of data your opponent leaks, while keeping your own operational reality completely invisible. You achieve this by asking open-ended, non-committal questions and immediately retreating into silence. As the opponent talks, you observe their micro-expressions, speech cadence, and word choices to identify their true pressure points, deadlines, and internal divisions. They are left fighting in the dark, shooting at invisible targets while you hold a complete layout of their entire position. The most profitable concession in a negotiation is the one you never had to request. The premature concession occurs when an opponent lowers their price, softens their terms, or offers added bonuses entirely on their own initiative because your silence shook their confidence. When presented with an offer, instead of counter-offering or showing agitation, deploy a long contemplative pause, 5 to 10 seconds of unblinking silence. Panicked by the prospect of losing the deal, they will regularly blurt out an immediate compromise. Of course, we have some flexibility on that number. You win major ground purely by letting their imagination do the heavy lifting. When information is precise, your opponent can easily formulate a logical countermove. When information is ambiguous, their brain is forced to process an infinite number of terrifying possibilities. Selective ambiguity is the deliberate practice of giving partial, cryptic, or indirect answers regarding your true priorities. By making statements like, "We are evaluating multiple structural avenues," without elaborating, you force the opponent to waste vast cognitive energy guessing what those avenues might be. They begin preparing for phantom threats, over-engineering backup plans, and making preemptive sacrifices to hedge against possibilities that don't even exist. By mastering ambiguity, you manipulate their decision-making environment without raising your hand, making them spend resources fighting a war against their own paranoia. When negotiations heat up and emotions threaten to derail your objectives, speed becomes your enemy. The strategic freeze is a tactical halt designed to break an opponent's aggressive momentum and force an unforced error. By suddenly slowing your speech down to a deliberate crawl or enforcing a complete prolonged pause right after an emotional outburst. The abrupt shift in tempo strips the room of its emotional momentum, forcing the opponent to confront the quiet reality of their behavior. Caught in a freeze, their aggressive posture deflates, their adrenaline spikes drop, and their cognitive processing stalls out. In that moment of disorientation, they routinely trip over their words, abandon hardliner demands, or make reckless missteps that permanently surrender control of the room to you. Information asymmetry is maintained not by total silence but by highly controlled, low-value disclosures from the opponent. You keep the reciprocity dynamic alive without surrendering operational leverage. When an opponent asks for your stance, you do not stonewall completely. Doing so risks shutting down the conversation entirely. Instead, you share widely known industry realities, harmless general observations, or minor administrative preferences. Our primary focus this quarter is operational stability. Because you offered something that sounds structured, the opponent feels psychologically validated and compelled to match your openness. By consistently executing asymmetric exchanges, you maintain absolute control over the information balance, ensuring that every piece of data in the room flows directly into your strategic reserve.